Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari I will play the Mridanga. Kartals, you know how to play, right? Okay, you can play kartals. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Vrajajanaranja Yasodhanandana Vrajajanaranja Yamunatira Jaya Radha Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shivati Gopal Krishna Gosvāmī Tramani Prabhupada Sahityam Yapakasha Vitiracha Vacharam Kirvansaya Bhagat Pateno Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatan Sahagana Raghunatan Ditam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanditam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanespari Visabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarovyaschа Kripa Sindhuvya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we continue reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, chapter about, this is also Astanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, eightfold processes of yoga. Text number 26. Yata niścalati manaḥ cañcalam asthiram tatas niyamya etat ātmany eva vaśaṁ nayet yato niścalati manaś cañcalam asthiram tato niyamyaitad ātmani eva vaśaṁ nayet. Let's do it in a different way, because in the Bhagavad Gita it's like a straight line. Yato niścalati manaś. No, it's different. Yato niścalati manaś cañcalam asthiram tato niyamyaitad ātmani eva vaśaṁ nayet yato niścalati manaś cañcalam asthiram tato niyamyaitad ātmani eva vaśaṁ nayet. Yato niścalati asthiram tato niyamyaitad ātmani vaśaṁ nayet. Yato niścalati manaḥ cañcalam asthiram Matajis. Matajis. Okay. Nobody wants. Yato niścalati manaḥ cañcalam asthiram yato niyamyaitad. Okay, good try. Word for word meaning yata, wherever. Niścalati, becomes verily agitated. Manaḥ, the mind. Cañcalam, flickering. Asthiram, unsteady. Tatas, from there. Niyamya, regulating. Etat, this. Ātmany, in the self. Eva, certainly. Vaśaṁ, control. Nayet, must bring under. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Everybody please repeat. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Can I have some water? Change of weather. Have to be careful now. Morning is nice and cool. Well, today is cool the whole day. There's no sun. Purport. The nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady. But a self-realized yogi has to control the mind. The mind should not control him. One who controls the mind, and therefore the senses as well, is called gosvāmī or Swami. And one who is controlled by the mind is called go-dāsa, or the servant of the senses. A gosvāmī knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesh, or the supreme honor of the senses, Krishna. Serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. That is the way of bringing the senses under full control. What is more, that is the highest perfection of yoga practice. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yato niścalati manaś cañcalam asthiram tato niyamyaitad ātmani vaśaṁ nayet. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So the nature of the mind is being discussed here by Lord Krishna. The mind has three aspects here. Niścalati, cañcalam, and asthiram. Niścalati means becomes verily agitated. Cañcalam, flickering, and asthiram, unsteady. It's very difficult to control the mind, and this is the first lesson that we need to learn in the process of Bhakti Yoga. The mind is unsteady, very easily agitated, and it is flickering. The mind has to be focused This is the main first lesson that we need to learn, how to focus our mind unto Lord Krishna. Specifically says, unto Lord Krishna's lotus feet. When we focus our mind unto Lord Krishna's lotus feet, that includes everything. His name, fame, form, qualities, and pastimes. His instructions, specifically from the Bhagavad Gita. The mind, an uncontrolled mind, is one's greatest enemy. And when the mind is fully under control, then he is the best friend. So in the very beginning, when we start the process of spiritual life, it has to be done. Otherwise, the mind, if it's uncontrolled, we cannot make spiritual progress. Our goal is to make spiritual progress more and more. But if our mind is uncontrolled, that means it's not focused on Krishna, then it'll be very difficult to make progress. It's always moving, the mind. It's always moving. It cannot be motionless. It's always in motion. Even at night, when we dream, the mind is still moving. The body is already resting. But how is it that the mind is always keep on moving? That's why Prabhupada says that before going to sleep, we should read Krishna book. Or Bhagavad Gita, like what we're doing right now, so that whatever we're doing the whole day, it will reflect when we go to sleep, because it's just continuously thinking of Krishna. Prabhupada gave an example that a child, you cannot keep a child steady. Can you keep a child, say, don't move, and the child will not move? No way. the child, the more you say don't move, then the more the child will keep on moving. So Prabhupada gave an example that motionless, that the mind should be motionless. Motionless means not to think of material things. It has to be always keep on thinking, always desiring, always making plans, always making arrangements. How to be properly situated, how to be happy. That is the nature of the mind. Always looking for something which the person will become happy. But it's not possible to be happy if we're always thinking of material desires. The more one thinks of material desires, then the more one becomes miserable, because he cannot satisfy that desire. It's not possible. So motionless means putting an end to the desire for sense enjoyment. But then there should be an alternative, because the mind cannot be blank at any time. So what should be our desire? Our desire, the desire of the mind, should be unto the pleasure, giving pleasure towards the Supreme Lord or His pure devotees. Being motionless means being fixed in Krishna consciousness. What do you mean by being fixed in Krishna consciousness? It's like, again, when Prabhupada says that the child cannot be motionless. It's going to keep on moving. So if you give an alternative for the child has to keep moving, has to do something. Otherwise, the child will be naughty, will do some mischiefs. He will do, sometimes they can break things in the house. And sometimes when we go travel in some devotee homes, you will see the child, they have, like scribble on the walls, and the walls is newly painted. You've seen that sometimes? Well, in America, we've seen that. I don't know in India. You've seen that in India also? I think so. Right? Because the child just keep going, keep doing something. But if you give the child, like say, coloring book about Krishna, then learn how to just focus on Krishna, coloring Krishna in the different illustrations of different pastimes. So similarly, the mind has to be focused in Krishna consciousness. That is what you mean by motionless. Therefore, the mind will be focused on Lord Krishna. We have to be engaged in Krishna consciousness. And to be engaged in Krishna consciousness, first and foremost, we have to think that we are not this body. We're spirit souls. I don't belong in such country. This is like the first thing that I've learned in Krishna consciousness, that to be still trying to learn, not to think that I'm a Filipino, or, I stayed in Canada. Because if I think like that, then I'll not be able to be Krishna conscious. If one thinks that I'm American, I'm Hindu, I'm Indian, I'm Christian, then there's no way to be on the spiritual platform. So the mind has to go beyond the physical, mental and intellectual platform. Because the nature of the mind is so flickering and unsteady, Prabhupada says, but a yogi, a realized yogi, he knows how to control the mind. It's not that the mind should control him. The materialists, they don't control the mind. They don't know how to control the mind. They think that by following their mind, they become master, but actually they become slaves. As Prabhupada says in the Purport, instead of becoming Swami or gosvāmī, master of the senses, one is go-dāsa. He is slave of the senses, servant of the senses. So the senses, if it is not under control by the mind, the senses has to be controlled by the mind has to be controlled by the intelligence, and the intelligence has to be controlled by understanding that we are not this body, that we are all servants of the Supreme Lord. If we are on that platform, then we are in the spiritual platform, transcendental platform. We will not see things, we will all see things under the guidance or the influence of the spiritual nature, spiritual energy. But it's not so easy. It's not so easy. Because the mind, Prabhupada says here, the mind is telling us, please, why not look at that beautiful girl? Now this is Prabhupada. I'm reading. So we look. It says, why not drink that nice liquor? And we say, yes. And then it says, why not smoke this cigarette? Yes. We say, why not go to this restaurant for such palatable food? Why not do this? Why not do that? In this way, the mind is dictating and we are following. Of course, this is the material platform. We don't do that now, right? We don't go to cinema halls or smoke cigarette or drink liquor and so on. Because we know from the very beginning these are uncontrolled senses and uncontrolled mind is our greatest enemy. So we need to control the mind instead of the mind controlling us. And Srila Prabhupada is always hammering this again and again and again. For we will not make any spiritual advancement if we don't control the mind. We've been here in this material world for many, many lifetimes. Samsara, the cycle of repeated birth and death. And at the time of death, the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, and ego goes along with the soul to the next body. It is the gross body that we live behind. Will be the same personality when we take up a different form of body next life. And the mind has to be purified. The intelligence has to be purified, and the ego has to be purified. The whole purpose, especially in the human form of life, is to purify our existence. That's why we are chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to purify ourselves. It is not just the body is being purified, but the heart is getting purified. If we use our senses for the pleasure of Lord Krishna, Rishikesh, Sarvupadi binirmuktam tatbharatpena nirmalam Rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. Sevonmukhi hi jivado swayam eva spuradiyata. That these senses are contaminated and this is the cause of our further entanglement in this material world. Uncontrolled senses, uncontrolled mind. Now, if we use the same senses and the mind for pleasing Krishna or serving Krishna, who is the master of the senses, Rishikesh, then that is the start of service. Pure devotional service. So, as Prabhupada says also, that we cannot approach Krishna, who is all pure, if we are not pure. It's like we cannot go to the sun planet if we don't have the body that is suitable to go to the sun planet. So in order to go back home, back to Godhead, we have to purify ourselves. And again, as Prabhupada says, just like if we utilize the senses and the mind and intelligence and these different material coverings, in Krishna consciousness, it's just like an iron rod being in the fire, being touched by the fire. That iron rod will eventually become acting like the fire. I have one sannyasi who lives in Radhakund, Prabhupada's disciple. He's very austere, very austere. He came to visit me this afternoon because he asked for some help. And he looks very, very frail. He only eats once a day. But he is very spiritually advanced. I asked Maharaj, oh, what books do you read? What is your favorite book? He says, oh, I read Chaitanya Charitamrita, but I like Bhagavad Gita. Like Bhagavad Gita is so advanced. It gives us so much knowledge to purify ourselves. I also read some of the books of the Gosvāmīs, but he recites the Bhagavad Gita every day. I know, like when I go for a walk, morning walk, I've seen a lot of people about this side, near Barahagat or something, early in the morning. They would come to hear Harikatha. That is fine. But if one is not able to control one's mind and one's senses, they may want to hear those different pastimes of the Supreme Lord, but they'll not be able to relish it fully. One must first control the senses and the mind. And as Maharaj was saying, I only eat once a day. For many, many years, Maharaj says that I only eat once a day because that's all I need. I don't have to eat like 3 times or 4 times or 5 times during the day. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. There is no need. As says in the Bhagavad Gita, one should not eat too much or eat too little, work too hard or work too little, sleep too much or sleep too little. One should be in equipoise, in equilibrium. So to control the mind, we'll not be able to control the mind if we want to fulfill the demands of our senses, as Prabhupada was saying here. How will we be able to relish the Lord's different pastimes, stories about His pastimes, if we cannot go from the basics? And he was saying that the Bhagavad Gita is very advanced. Others may say, oh, Bhagavad Gita? No, I don't read Bhagavad Gita anymore. This is for elementary. This is for neophytes. I read very, very advanced books. And one cannot even control one's minds and one's senses, and he wants to read very high elevated books. How is that? First learn Krishna Tattva. And then we'll be able to understand and realize Krishna Lila. So one must be a gosvāmī or a Swami. Because a gosvāmī, he knows the standard of sense happiness. He knows how to engage the senses and the mind in Krishna consciousness, and therefore his happiness knows no bounds. It's eternal, and it keeps on going, increasing. Now, don't think that the Gosvāmīs, they control the mind. Don't think that Maya doesn't attract them. The only difference is that the Gosvāmīs and the Swamis, they're supposed to learn, and they learn how to say no to Maya. Unlike the go-dāsa, yes, Maya will, you want to take an inch from Maya? but Maya will give you a mile. And as long as we have this body, Maya is always there to attract us. Even Haridas Thakur, who is the topmost Vaishnava, Paramahamsa, is being allured by Maya, Maya Devi. But Haridas Thakur says, yes, I will satisfy you, whatever you like, but first let me finish my rounds. First let me finish my number of rounds that I have to chant. So in Vrindavan, as much as possible, try to engage ourselves more in hearing and chanting. That Maharaj from Radhakund is a Prabhupada's disciple, very advanced. He says he chants at least 1 lakh of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. And Prabhupada says, so in Vrindavan, 64 rounds, yes, it's normal. Lakpati, a lakpati. Not that, lakpati means 100,000 rupees. But lakpati means the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, names of the Lord. So serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. This is the way how we can attract Krishna. Even though Krishna means all attractive, but we can learn, develop that way how we can attract Krishna by our actions. What is more, that is the highest perfection of yoga practice. Bringing the senses under full control. There is no such thing as yoga or linking up with the Supreme Lord if our senses and the mind is not fully under control. There is no such thing as bhakti yoga. So somehow or other, we have to purify our mind. Pure mind means I belong to Krishna. That's what it means by pure mind. Having a pure mind means understanding that I belong to Krishna. Impure mind means I belong to this country or to this nation or to this society. I belong to this family. That is impure mind, because that is temporary. Our eternal nature is that we're all servants of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, in Krishna consciousness, one must be determined. Just like today is Ekadasi. Yes? We're determined not to eat grains, beans, and lentils. So in Krishna consciousness, one must be determined to go back home, back to Godhead. And don't wait. Don't wait and say, when I get a little older, I'll become more serious. I'll become more determined. But what is old? Old age. Prabhupada says old age means you're about to die. And we don't know when are we going to die. It could be next week. It could be next month. It could be 1 year or 10 years. It could be tomorrow, or it could be next moment. And we had devotees. I remember one time, early in the morning, there was a dead body here, a devotee, because he was on the way for Mangal Arti. and he left his body. He had a heart attack. So some devotees also, they're doing parikrama, they had heart attack. They're not expecting their death. And death may come anytime, any moment. So we have to be more serious and determined in this process. And whatever we've done in the execution of devotional service is eternally credited. It will be there. And therefore, this determination can only be, Prabhupada says, can only be attained or obtained if one ceases indulging in sex. It's very powerful, Prabhupada says. That determination can only be obtained if one completely stops that desire or indulgence in sex, which is the highest pleasure that one can have in the material world. So one must be determined. A yogi is like that. Completely all the senses, the mind is completely under control and don't have any more desire to enjoy the opposite sex. Then one can be determined. One can be very, very powerful. So in this way, this text is very, very important. One must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Prabhupada gave an example also, just like a tortoise. A tortoise. They can contract the legs and even the head. You touch them a little bit, they will just like the tortoise, the kurma. You don't see the hands, you don't see the head, you don't see the legs at all. So we should be like that also. As soon as Maya starts approaching us, control our senses immediately. It's like a radar detector. Like in America, they have radar detector. They know when the police is there. So they know that someone is having a speed gun, they call it speed gun. So they have this radar detector, and as soon as they notice and given warnings, because the machine will beep, 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 it'll turn into red, then they will slow down. So they will not get any ticket. So similarly, as soon as Maya is there, because this is the trick of Maya. She's a Vaishnavi. And her main duty is to keep the conditioned souls being bound in the material world, not to get out. And to always put the living entities into illusion, like a thankless task. Maya Devi, she is actually embarrassed to be with Krishna face to face because of her service, but she's doing very good service. But when the living entity convinced to Maya Devi that I only take shelter unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, 100% surrender, then Maya will release that living entity. She says, I cannot do anything more. I gave up. Okay, now you can go. But as long as we are not be able to control the temptations of the material energy, especially by controlling our mind, then Maya will always give us problems. Maya will always keep us in anxiety, in sufferings. So controlling the mind is the most important thing in the very beginning in our execution of devotional service. If the mind is controlled, then we become powerful. The Maya will not be able to touch us. We'll stop here. You have any points or any questions in this regard? Huh? Yes. Hare Krishna.
If there is a relation, the word go is the same meaning, like senses and cow.
Go.
In Sanskrit.
Yeah.
I ask if there is some relation between these two words.
Like go mata. Go mata means cows, and go also is senses. So Sanskrit is like that. It can have many meanings. Like Govinda, one who gives pleasure to the senses and to the cows also. Govinda. So the relationship is just the Sanskrit as itself. I don't know, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar. 100% I cannot tell you. But yes, we've heard that go means senses, and also go or go means mother cow. Right. Other than that, I don't know. We better ask someone. Any other question? Yes?
Thank you, Manas. This you quoted Prabhu. You quoted Prabhupada. Prabhupada said that if you want to have determination, then you should abstain from sex life.
Yes.
But then for abstaining from that, also determination is required. So how do we get that?
Well, as Prabhupada says again, just like an example, I think you just came a little late, that just like an ekadasi, we are determined not to eat grains, beans, and lentils. So similarly, when we know that our greatest enemy is the mind, to have sense enjoyment, which sex is the highest pleasure, then we should do it. Just do it. You understand? You just like ekadasi, do you eat grains? No. So you're determined. Where do you get the determined? Because you know it is bad. You know it is sinful. That sin personified resides in the grains. So if you know that this is the greatest enemy, lust, which is the devouring, sinful enemy that one can have, then you should be knowing that, hey, this is bad for me. So first, control the mind, control the senses. We gave an example again. Don't eat too much. Don't sleep too much. Whatever is required. These are all part of this. And the senses has to be, to control the senses in the mind, use it for Krishna's service. Okay? It's like, how do you become, how to be humble? Just do it. Even if you don't feel bowing down to the sannyasi or to the guru or to the Lord, bow down, mister. You have to do it. You know, how many, in the material world, no one wants to bow down. They think that they became a lesser person. Or they will bow down to the boss because they want, promotion or more money to raise their salary. But in spiritual platform, we've heard that we have to do it, so we do it for our own benefit. You understand? It's not so easy. In the beginning, there was one follower or aspiring disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he doesn't want to bow down. Prabhupada let it go a few times, and then Prabhupada asked, why you not bowing down? You don't know that you need to bow down to a sannyasi or to the spiritual master? And aspiring disciple says, I don't feel doing it. Prabhupada says, even if you don't feel doing it, you should still do it. Because eventually that feelings will come. So, yes, we all want to satisfy our tongue, our eyes, our ears, our nose, our sense of touch. We can only satisfy them if we use it for Krishna's service. Otherwise, in the material platform, it will be the source of our miseries and sufferings. Okay? Any other points? Huh?
Go also means entire planet.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you see, it's like ātmā. Ātmā means the body. It also means the soul. So how can that be? Ātmā. So yes, go loka, go planet of the cows. Okay, so we stop here now. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Dhanyavad.